Greetings, everyone. You have stumbled into episode 177 of Colette and Matt Have Entered the Chat, a weekly conversation about video games, technology, art, and the science of the virtual worlds that we love to inhabit all day, every day, if we could help it. All this work and kids and school, get out of my way. I have monsters to kill in various games that I am playing. I am Matt Silverman. You know me from listening to, 176 previous episodes, and you're probably expecting to hear another voice that you're very familiar with, Colette Bennett. Her name is in the title of the show. However, she and her husband have purchased a house, and as they say in jolly old England, they are moving house this week. And so she said, we got all these boxes. We got to unpack. I told her, I gave her this assignment. Don't put anything in until you wire your house with Ethernet so that you can play all the games in all the rooms. Okay. That was her homework. Next week, we will find out if she did her assignment. But this week, I am very excited to welcome back to the show a friend of the show, the artist, the miniaturist, the craftsperson, the hand-cut paper guru, the Windfluencer, and my frequent companion on the Sword Coast of the world of the Forgotten Realms, Sky Burkson. Welcome back to the show. Hello.
Whoa.
How are you, friend?
I'm good. I was not expecting that applause.
We always film before a studio audience. It's just what we do here.
Yeah, I forgot about all these people in here. I didn't notice them. They're behind me.
Yeah, so no, you're facing camera.
And when you took the bag off, I couldn't see them.
Just I love that visual of yes, a burlap sack and masking tape or, duct tape over the mouth of guests, and they cannot be revealed or speak until you rip it off, and they're like, what? Yeah. Where am I?
And the pre-arrangements to set that up too. So when do you want to do the podcast? Okay. All right. We'll put the bag on around.
We send a car. We send the black Humvee to your house. Yeah. The thugs put the bag over your head, and then you come along. Yeah. That's how we do it here. Hello. What is poppin', as the children say?
Just paper.
He's popping more paper. Great.
Yeah.
We were chatting before the show. You are working on something that is quite intriguing to me. What's the latest project, and where are you with it?
The paper I'm cutting right now is being shaped into another very large miniature, which is inspired by Bloodborne, called it's the location Hemwick Charnel Lane from Bloodborne, which is the witchy area of the game.
You'll have to forgive me because I've never owned a PS at PSX, etc. So I've never touched Bloodborne, but I know it obviously is very near and dear to your heart.
One of the two reasons to own well, not anymore, I guess. One of the two reasons to own a PS4, which is Bloodborne, and at one point it was Spider-Man, but
yes,
no longer.
But what's the status of Bloodborne in terms of a remake or PC something? Is it known that it's ever going to come, or that's not a thing?
It's in the status. I would say it's in the status of Silk Song, of less than Silk Song, except that it's never had any official we're going to do something about that. Where it's really just a community of people going, let's do a remake, or let's do a remaster, or let's put it on. I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it's going to get a sequel. And I'm of the opinion that it doesn't need it.
But I guess it needs it is for accessibility.
Totally.
Will I ever be able to play Bloodborne? Will the original Bloodborne ever become a PC or God help us, a Switch 2 release? Something.
Probably someday. Yeah. But I don't think it would be anytime soon. When I say I don't think it's going to happen, I'm every time there's announcement fever, it's Silk Song, and then the Bloodborne community is Bloodborne, come on. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's not going to happen anytime soon. They got to strike a really good deal to get Bloodborne onto PC.
I mean, do you perceive the market and fandom to be large enough for this game that a commercial release of a update is that okay? That's what I always wonder about.
Oh yeah, it's my if you ask Souls fans, it's highly likely if you ask which one's their favorite, they're probably gonna say Bloodborne.
And with the success of Elden Ring reaching exponentially more new Souls people, I would imagine that if Bloodborne returned, there would be a bigger market for it. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, it seems counterintuitive to say that it would do gangbusters. It would only do so much good for the game to release it wider. But I don't think that it's going to be a project that happens.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like logical, but I just don't trust that it would happen anytime soon.
Right.
But it would. It makes so much logical sense to release it on the backside of Elden Ring, being such a it's just a little more accessible for people, despite it being in some ways the most difficult of the Souls games. It's clearly the most accessible. And it did such good numbers, and there's so many people who have joined the Souls community because of that game. It would just do so much good to release Bloodborne on PC, but I have no trust in it. And
Bloodborne that might be it is FromSoft though, right? It's not there. Are there any other stakeholders in it that need to play ball to make it happen?
What is it? Sony Japan is that was a Sony Japan project. So,
and
is
was
that right?
FromSoft,
am I saying that?
I should look this up, or because I honestly don't know. I don't remember.
I forget the name, but it's the Sony Japan team. But it's FromSoft, but it is a Sony Japan team that helped create this game. So
Miyazaki
it's exclusively
licensed
to Sony. So Sony has to, at the end of the day, say yes.
Got it. Okay. It is made by FromSoft. They both have
to say yes. So
it is, yes. FromSoft made it. Miyazaki directed it, and
Studio Japan. That's the name of it. I'm so sorry. Studio Japan's the name of it, but I couldn't think of the name.
And it's PS4. Why did I think it was older than that? Interesting. Okay.
It feels older because it's like 10. I forget when it released, but it's almost. Is it almost 10 years old, the game? It's
2015. Old. Yes. 9.5 years, so basically March 2015.
It's been around long enough that it feels like it feels ancient. But then you go back and play it and you're like, this is one of the best. Mm-hmm. So.
All right. So you're working on a scene, a piece of architecture from this game, this beloved game that I do not know, but fans, I'm sure, who are listening will be aware of this spoopy area, perhaps.
Yeah. It's huge. The area. I'm doing a truncated version of it, but basically capturing the whole area. The area is very cool when you play these games. Like, this is one of the areas where it feels very nondescript and sort of forgettable. But then when you, as you play it and you realize you really look at this area, you're like, this is like Bloodborne or this is From Software like at their highest caliber.
It epitomizes their environmental design.
Yeah, exactly. Like really tight combat areas, really atmospheric, forcing you to go down paths where you still have to be careful and think about what you're doing. And then the only thing that sort of suffers is that the boss fight is kind of lame. It's a little gimmicky and dumb. But it's funny that when I was speaking to this is for Jack. I'll reveal that this is for Jacksepticeye.
Okay. Just briefly, here we go. You just told me this before we started rolling, and I was like, oh, are you working on this as like a showpiece or as a commission? You're like, oh, commission. I'm like, and you're like, oh, it's actually for Jacksepticeye. I'm like, he's one. I mean, I think listeners know he's like arguably one of the biggest game streamers, YouTubers in the video game survival, Souls, whatever games he likes to play, space. And I don't watch everything he does, but where I found him was when he turned me on to Subnautica. He was playing Subnautica a lot, years ago, and I was like, what is this game? And I just got hooked on him and the game, and he's massive. So I am desperately curious how he found your work and how he reached out to you. How did that come about?
Well, Twitter is where anybody finds me now, basically. And he found me because through Egoraptor, because I made the Hunter's Dream also from Bloodborne, like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And that is like that's probably my favorite piece I've made. And when I posted that up, Aaron Hansen immediately commented and was like, "Hey, can I buy this?"
Who I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Egoraptor, the Game Grump.
Oh wow, okay.
Equally influential YouTuber.
But his name, her name is
his name, Aaron Hansen.
Aaron. Aaron or Aaron?
Aaron.
Yes,
Aaron Hansen.
Okay, cool.
But he is a huge Bloodborne fan. Anybody who plays Bloodborne is immediately a Bloodborne fan. It's impossible not to.
Right.
You're going to go through a week of being like, really, this is what people like? And then after that week, you're like, wait a minute, this game is like perfect. So anybody who's played Bloodborne is a huge Bloodborne fan. Feels redundant to be like, they're a huge Bloodborne fan. They played it. They love it.
And this is just, again, I think this is very fascinating because you are creating things that are so meticulous and hyper specific to a fandom that is large but not enormous. But to your point, the fandom is ravenous. So when you share this online, it is like the bat signal. There is no Bloodborne diehard fan who does not eventually come across like, what? Oh my God, who made this? You know what I mean? It's like moths to the flame. And you're not, I know that you're not necessarily doing that purposefully, but the effect of this is zoom, everywhere. All the fans are like, what is this? And now you are
it's
on the radar of people.
To the series and to From Software specifically.
I love
like
this.
The more there's the fandom is, ravenous is a good word for them.
Hell yeah.
For all of us. Sometimes I disclude myself from it, but then I'm like, no, I love these games.
I'm in there, yeah. All right, so Game Grumps, Aaron says, hey, what's up?
He saw it.
This is cool.
He bought it almost immediately. This is like before.
So that was not a commission. That was just a piece that you were doing on your own.
I spent like a month or so on that one and then posted it up like, la-di-da, I'm going to go watch my daughter be born now. Cool. And as I'm doing that, he's like, can I buy this? It was like, holy shit, you're Egoraptor. Yeah. Of course you can. And then from there, while that was happening, they're good friends, I should say, Egoraptor and Jacksepticeye.
Got it.
I was constantly getting comments like where people were tagging Jacksepticeye because he's a gigantic Bloodborne fan. And so it was a process of like, okay, I've got another project with Egoraptor coming up. I made the Settlement of Astera for Monster Hunter.
Oh, that was for him. I didn't realize that was him. I didn't know that you were. When we have talked about it at length. I love that piece. I'm a big fan of the game.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know that you were able to disclose who it was for, but that's amazing.
Oh yeah. I kept that under wraps until it was done.
Yes.
But from there, I basically jumped. I remember I dropped that piece off with. It's funny that we were talking, Jacksepticeye and I, about like, hey, what do you want? What are you looking at? He wanted a Bloodborne piece. We finally got to talking about, hey, I got on his radar and, hey, what do you want? What are you thinking? And I threw some ideas his way, like, hey, what about this place, this place, this place? And he came back with this one. And I was like, well, clearly I'm not the biggest Bloodborne fan because that seems like the strangest location to pick if you're going to ask for like an involved miniature.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I guess I gotta figure this out. And I remember talking to when I dropped the piece off the settlement with Egoraptor, being like, we were talking about this area, and he's like, that's a good pick. That's such a good pick for a location. And I was like, gosh, I really need to play Bloodborne again and really invest in this area. And was like, holy shit, they're like, of course they know what they're talking about. Cause this area is just sweet. It's just atmosphere completely. There's like very little spectacle to this area. It's just atmosphere.
Okay. But does that give you enough to work with architecturally? And I'm now poking at your Instagram to see. Is this Hemwick? Am I looking at the right thing?
Posting lately is Hemwick.
Got it. Okay, so I'm looking at it.
All I'm looking at anymore.
It is. There is some sort of structure in the background, but the foreground is very much like it's very rocky, and it's not a graveyard. But no, it is. There's tombstones everywhere.
The area is a charnel lane, so they dig up bodies and burn them for, you name it, for like. But I don't understand the lore.
I don't know completely. The lore.
I need to really dig in more on like why they would burn the bodies, but I'm going to assume that they pull some madness from them because the whole game revolves around Lovecraftian madness, opening your eyes to the other world and seeing things that you can't ever see, and investing in these bestial powers, and so there's something about like this overarching witch who's in control of the area that you need to take out. Anyways.
Are the gravestones, because Joe, sorry everyone, this is an audio medium, but the gravestones are like, it almost looks like a dumping ground for gravestones. It does not look like a graveyard. So I'm wondering we dug up a bunch of graves and threw all the stones in a pile because this is not a sacred place. It's just a place where we burn people.
Yeah, they're clearly like culling up. They're culling through graves and pulling them apart and collecting the headstones. Although, to be fair, in many of the areas in this game, you'll just find like walls of tombstones or walls of bodies. So, but this area, there's like a few key sort of motifs, which is headstones, gravestones, spindly dead trees. It's a very like broken and dead
lots of
area.
Shacks
lots of fire because they're like burning a lot of stuff and wood, and it's a very cool area.
It's great, but
so
then
that's what I'm working on now.
A central structure that looks like not a castle, but like some sort of, I don't know, a mausoleum or what would you say?
It's I've had to. That's the piece of architecture I've had to truncate the most because it is, when you're in the game, it is huge. It's like it goes on almost like to infinity how big this structure is. Not to mention that the whole region that you're in, what is called the Charnel Lane, goes on for it loops around in this massive loop, and I've had to how do we make this into what is already going to be a gigantic piece? How do I truncate things so that we keep sort of the feel of having to go up around something and unlock a shortcut and then go through this over here and unlock that shortcut?
Is it in the game? Is it physically massive, or is it some sort of mystical, it's wrapping around because it's magical in nature?
That's a good question. Yeah, no, it's clearly physical. There's nothing about an illusion or anything that the witch is casting. I mean, maybe that's actually a good. Well, I feel one of the lore experts would be like, no, actually, the witch is pulling some sort of thing that you can't see anymore until you open your eyes.
But just to give listeners context again, because they're not looking at it, and some are familiar with your work and maybe others are not. But you're saying, this is a massive piece, but also everything you're creating is extraordinarily tiny. So when you say massive, how many inches or feet are we talking when it's sitting on your desk, on your table?
The piece is about 33 inches long by 16 inches wide.
So a little two-ish feet.
So it's almost 2 foot by 3 foot by about 2 feet tall.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big chunk of paper right there.
Yeah. It's, I would say, equal in comparison to Astera, which was more which was smaller in its ground plan a little bit, but super tall, because that area clearly, that area goes up, 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 up. But this one is long. You go from one end all the way to the end of the witch's abode, which is the big castle.
Yes.
And I've had to like truncate it down by like easily by half, if not, what I've built is probably like a third of what you see in the game.
Yeah, interesting.
And it has like, I've done something very cool, which is that the inside of the abode is the boss fight. And so I've fit in an interior inside of there that you turn on the lights, and there's the boss fight, and there's the witch inside. You basically
you're
pull off a piece of wall,
and
you can see inside, like, ooh, there's the fight. And then in the game, when you beat the witch, you continue through an extra door down a set of steps into this decrepit little room where there's a dead body in a chair, and there's a key tool that you need for the rest of the game. And I've also created a little peek in through a window where you can see that tool,
which is like
body, I should say.
If you love this game and you know what happens in this locale, you can literally like peer in on your, it's going to be sitting on Jacksepticeye's, bookshelf or wherever he wants to put it, and he can like peer in and just be like, yeah, that's where I did the thing that is so important to this game. So it sounds like these two pieces are probably the biggest you've ever done.
Oh, this and Astera are
like they're tied for biggest, most complicated. And which one? You're in the final stages of the Bloodborne piece. So which one took you longer? Which one was more complicated? Astera had a lot of water and epoxy. Are they the same? Yeah.
Yeah. I think this one might be a little shorter. I had to fit some other projects from people who were like, I need a thing by October. I need this by this date. So I had to like stop and go do this. And then, but I think all told, they're about the same, about 4. Astera took me 5 months and that was nonstop. And this one was like, I think I've been working on it for 6, but probably 4 actual months of work. So
I just really like,
I don't know.
I like the idea of a very, like a rich corporate businessman being like, I need level 3 of Banjo-Kazooie by October 2nd.
Yeah.
It must be
I've been
done.
working with, I should say that I have had the fortune of working with some indie publishers lately for their games we're going to release this game at this date. And we want a cool piece of art to go with the publishing of this game to promote it, like, or gifts for the developers,
media?
For our developers.
Okay.
And
cool. Are you at liberty? You probably are not at liberty.
I can't say anything about.
But when these games become public, you'll hopefully come back and share what those were. Perhaps? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great.
So also the first time I've had to be like, I can't say anything actually.
No, totally.
Which is cool.
That's definitely under wraps. So final question about this work. Like, how is Jacksepticeye to work with? Like, is he, sounds great. Like he's involved in the process of like, I want it to look like this, but also you need to truncate and modify. So is he like involved creatively, or is he just like, make it happen and let me send it to you?
Both him and Egoraptor were, have been like hands off and to the point where I'm like, is this good? Are you,
do you like this?
Like, is this okay? And both of them throughout both processes were like, we trust you. Do it.
Just the best.
So
just the best.
They're fantastic. Like, so my anxious side is like, oh God. But, just keep going. And they're like so supportive. So,
and then when it's done or in process, but et cetera, like, do you know if like Jacksepticeye might incorporate it on a stream? Like, could it be like in the background while he's playing Bloodborne and he's going to talk about it on there? Like, you know what I mean?
I would be so lucky. That would be very fortunate, but I no idea.
But he has shared it publicly and you saw a big spike in interest and followers, right?
He mentioned in his Bloodborne playthrough, because I was telling you before, you were like, oh, hold on, let's talk about this here.
Yeah.
That like all of a sudden, like a year ago, I was just like, suddenly got slammed with attention and I couldn't tell where it was coming from until I just straight up asked on like a story on Instagram or
like
on Twitter, where I was like, where the hell are you all coming from? And they were like, Jacksepticeye's video.
Yes.
And he did like a shout out while he's playing, like, hey,
it was guy. Like a 2-hour stream, and he said it like this guy one time, and then you have no idea where that was because it's not like a video about you, you know?
No, it was his, you can go see it. It's in his Bloodborne.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I'm sure it's like it's probably like 4 minutes of a 2-hour video. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be hard for you to identify. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I had to watch. He actually does it early in his Bloodborne video. So that was fortunate that I mean, I would have watched anyways, but
of course,
at some point, but, it didn't take me long to track down like, oh my God, this is such a big bump. I can't believe it.
And he was just
very
like,
nice. He was so kind about it.
Like, hey, look at this guy's Instagram. Look at this guy's Twitter. Yeah. Isn't this cool? Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, my friend Aaron got a piece from him. And, you know.
Yeah.
And we hadn't even secured, I should say, the commission yet. Like, hey, we're, you know, locked things in, and he was like, I'm getting a commission from this guy, let me tell you.
Definitely getting it. Yeah.
I guess we are. Okay. I guess I gotta I started playing Bloodborne again right then and there. Like, let me do some fucking research.
We've talked about this, which is so fascinating, but that you need to go into the world and go into the game and view the game, view the space in 3 dimensions. And
it probably does nothing. It's probably like a placebo thing where I'm like, it doesn't really do anything, but I'm like, it feels like I am doing some form of research.
No, you have
to. Which is where
like,
I'm getting so mad that I can't play my Chrono Trigger without it crashing. I'm trying to do research for that.
Ooh, what are you working on for Chrono Trigger? Can you say?
Nothing yet, but I'm trying to generate ideas.
Okay.
I've got some things in my brain. I will say that ship, I didn't realize there was a ship in the game, like a time traveling ship. And I was like, this is probably one of the coolest ships I've seen in a game.
Yeah. I mean, I love Chrono Trigger. I adore it. Played it a million times, as many listeners I'm sure have too. The Epoch is fine. It is not. I love spaceships. I love ships of all kinds.
Yeah.
If I were to commission you to make a Chrono Trigger thing, it would not be the Epoch. But
no, it would not be focused around. I saying like, oh, I want to just mention that the Epoch is cool. Is like, I have some version, whatever it is, would have to be a more like the Elden Ring piece I did, which is like a deconstruction of a larger idea and then smashed together into a collage of things. Okay. That's where my brain is already going. Is because it is a time traveling thing, is like, that is so much easier to conceptualize, like smashing things together that don't seem like they go together.
Cool. But I actually have the answer for you, and get ready. I'm
ready.
I know, because you shared in our Discord, like, the game keeps crashing at this point. I know, I'm pretty confident you are not at this point yet. But have you reached the Dark Ages yet in your playthrough? It's like 12,000 BC.
12,000 BC,
where the world is covered in ice
antiquity?
And snow. No, it's not.
Oh, the snow. I've been there.
Okay.
Yes.
But have you gone to the Kingdom of Zeal?
I've gone to the floating islands.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's definitely high on the list of what do I start with? Zeal is a very clear winner.
I want the islands. I want the cities. I want the waterfalls flowing down from the islands.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow. Yeah. Is that light? Is that some sort? I don't know what material that would be, but it has. But maybe there is some sort of movement or illusion of motion that the waterfalls could have in the final piece. And then, like, how, do you prop the islands up on clear, dowels or something? I don't know how you would approach that, but. Mm-hmm. The image of Zeal in its entirety, with all the cities and settlements on it, would be the chef's kiss thing that I would commission from you if I had infinite money.
Yeah. No, that's definitely when I saw Zeal was like, oh well, this is a clear winner. And sometimes with that, I'm like, well, clear winner is good. Let me figure out if there's Sometimes doing it straight, like this Hemwick Charnel Lane is very straightforward. Like this is the area. The only things that I'm doing I'm taking license with is to truncate, and how do we do that? But I really do I haven't done anything sort of like Lane Dell, which is you take the thing apart and you put the pieces together into a cohesive sort of idea. And I'm like, Zeal is down the path, like straight down the lane.
Down the middle.
And now what is the deconstruction lane?
Well, and then the other thing that occurs to me, the reason I went to Zeal is because I love it. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the game. But also, when you view the world map of Zeal, it looks three-dimensional. But the rest of the game is 2D. So then my other question, and I promise for listeners we will talk about video games in a moment, but how would you construct a three-dimensional model of a 2D world where you can't really get the correct proportions of the object when you're looking at sprites? You know?
Just fill in that detail. Just go what makes the most logical sense for this area, for it to look like the way it does. I don't have a good answer. I guess it's just more like you just have to trust what you. Trust whatever knowledge you might find about like what feels right in that area and what details exist elsewhere. A lot of times you can fill in detail by looking like in other areas of the game and being like, well, that could be back there. So let's just put that back there too.
Totally. Yeah. That's great. Right. Because if you were like low, if the camera view is low to the ground, what would be behind this castle in the world, where you'd have to walk further in the 2D world. But if you were like looking at it in 3 dimensions, you'd see something behind it. And then the other thing, there is something about Lavos that is very detailed and prickly and architectural. Like it's not it is not a building, but it is very, there's a lot of texture there that might be great, even though like, I don't know, would you want like the villain, the destroyer of worlds to be the thing from Chrono Trigger that's on your desk? I don't know.
That'd
Some
be
people
cool.
would. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Well,
so there you go.
Keep us posted on all of it. I love talking about it, and we will certainly be talking about it more. But right now, as we speak, it is. To all who celebrate, good tidings to you. If you and your family observe Steam Next Fest, the most wonderful time of the year. Sky Burkson, I just have 2 quick questions for you. One, what do you think about video games? Do you like them?
Yeah.
Okay, he likes them.
You know what? I'm mixed on them. Sometimes I am mixed on them, if I'm going to be honest. Sometimes sometimes it's the game, sometimes it's me. Yeah.
Amen. Preach.
I had a week last week or a few days where I was like tapped out on things in life, and then I'm like, well, my decompression is video games, and I started playing the game, and I'm like getting mad, and I'm like, I literally said out loud to myself, I'm like, do I like anything?
And doesn't that actually fills me with existential dread, because I'm like, this thing that I love and that brings me joy and peace and decompression, as you said, is not working. So what am I going to do? Watch TV, cook food? I don't
sit. Am I supposed to just sit right now?
Yeah. Looking at the wall. All right. So you're mixed on video games, but with a slight nudge towards liking them. Now, what if I told you? What if I told you that you could get some for free, 0 cost, $0? What do you think about that?
Well, I hope they're long enough, is what I would say. You better give me a 60-hour experience if it's free.
Okay, I'm sorry. This podcast is over. Thanks for listening.
All right. Well,
what if I told you could get like a lot of games that were very short, but many of them are good, and they all cost you $0? What would you say to that?
Oh, that'll do.
Oh, we did it. Demos galore, friends. We have been playing, fortunately, in our quest to find new and interesting things. butt ton of demos from Steam Next Fest, and I am very excited to talk about the things that I have discovered, and I'm also equally excited to see the things that are on your list here. So why don't you kick it off with, I don't know, where do you want to start? What have you been playing
I don't know.
This last week?
Well, I played a bunch this morning because I was, when you asked, I was like, well, shit, I only played 2.
Hey, 2 is plenty.
Yeah, that's fair, especially because they were both winners. In fact, they were all real winners in their own way. Which one to start with? I mean, you and I both played Rogue Flight.
Yes.
And I think we both loved it.
Really, really loved it. Why don't you explain what it is, and then I have questions about your experience with it.
Explain this game. I mean, it is an on-rails flight shooter, very much in the vein of Star Fox 64, Sin and Punishment, but more on like as a flight. So I guess it's more like Star Fox 64. But I know that we've talked about Star Fox many times, you and I.
Sure.
Because I'm a huge fan of Star Fox, which hurts most of the time because Nintendo doesn't like Star Fox fans.
Yeah. But I'm craving I think I've said this to you before, modern Star Fox for the next Switch console, whatever, that is not as linear, a more open-ish space arcade shooter where you have agency. An analogy here would be Everspace, which is Everspace and Everspace 2, which are excellent. They feel so great to play. They are very tactical, exciting, visceral space combat games, but they're also very arcadey, so you can just shoot them up. And that in a Star Fox universe would be great and would reinvigorate the franchise, in my humble opinion.
Anyways, Rogue Flight. Because I feel like I'm diving away from what this game is. It's an on-rails flight shooter. It feels great. It's fast.
Really fast.
I think that's probably the thing that I like a lot about it. This is such a tough one to talk about, honestly, because I'm like, it just feels like what I want. Which is just an arcade experience, like the same arcade experience I had out of Star Fox. It's like, I think about Star Fox 64, and I'm like, is there anything I'd change about 64? And I'm like, no, I think it's a perfect game. Like, maybe the Aquas level is probably the only thing I'd be like, just get rid of that. I
gotta go back.
Even then, I'm like, there's some fun things to do with that game.
I either never played Star Fox 64 or maybe like rented it briefly, but I certainly never owned it. So how is the sort of speed, feel, flow state of a game like Star Fox 64?
Yeah, I think that's the difference here is that Star Fox 64 feels, in comparison now to having played Rogue Flight, is like slow.
That's what I'm wondering.
But when you're playing the game without that in your head, Star Fox 64 feels great.
Okay.
You definitely have time to think about what you're aiming at in Star Fox 64, as opposed to Rogue Flight felt like. I think that's sort of a big difference here with the one level they put in this demo, which is that they're going for an arcade shooter where you have to play it many times to really figure it out, because some of the enemies come at you so fast that it feels like a lot of the like top down or side scrolling shoot 'em ups.
Oh, that's a good comparison. Where you just are like,
I can't. You have to memorize where the enemies are going to come from.
That's a great
to get
comparison.
Your massive point totals or get a better. Did this have a rank? I'm trying to remember if this had ranks. I played this 2 days ago, so I'm like
ranks. What do you mean? Like
you finish a level and it gives you a rank. I'm trying to remember if it had ranking systems.
Here's my. It's not a criticism necessarily. I cannot beat the final boss of the level in the demo, so I do not know what
it took
happens.
me like 3 tries to get there.
I'm glad it's not just me. I think I did at least 5, and I was just like, I love this game, but like, if this is level 1, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like progress here. But anyway,
I liked it when I figured it out, but
okay,
that part I was like, this. The criticism I have there is just like a blanket criticism where I am open to being like, I think either I'm dumbheaded that I just can't tell what I'm supposed to aim at in this moment, and that one is very clear that I think they should have made that more clear where you're supposed to aim.
I know where I'm supposed to aim, but there is, I think my challenge with it is that because of the layout, you're shooting at a large ship where there's 2 things happening. The fire, the jet emissions of the ship, the thrusters will hurt you if you touch them.
That's right.
But also you have to shoot the thrusters to beat the boss.
Yes.
So there's something about where you're like, okay, I got to stay low to get away from the thruster fire.
Yes.
But if I stay low, I can't shoot at the thrusters. So you're pointing the nose of your ship up to shoot the thrusters, which then makes you fly up and get killed
by the thrusters.
The fire. Yeah. So it's like you're constantly like, shoot a little bit, but go back down. Shoot a little bit, go back down. Yeah. And then and then the boss is like shooting at you with projectiles at the same time.
That's right. You're right.
The thing about this game that is also like, I thought of an analogy earlier, and it's escaping me now, but it is Star Fox on speed because you're moving so fast. Yeah. But there is like a combo system where you're doing parries and flip moves that create like a tray. It's hard to explain. You're like creating a whip of chemtrails, which is I'm just being stupid about that term, but like you're whipping the trail of your engines around, so you're like, oh shit, a bunch of enemies, and instead of shooting them individually, you go whoosh, and you go into slow-mo. Like, oh man, I was thinking of another game. What are those games where you do like an epic move and time slows down?
Like a Devil May Cry sort of You called
go
it a
into
platinum game, and I was like, that's it.
Yes,
it's definitely a platinum style.
It's Star Fox with a mixed with a platinum action game.
It felt
you go into bullet time, and it feels so fucking good. So you go, and then your trails go bing, 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 and then you come back into real time, and you've obliterated all the enemies. And that ability happens on a cooldown, which is very, very generous. So what ends up happening is you're like, pum, 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 lock on with missiles, and then whoom, do the whip, and then you are just crushing left and right. And it feels really awesome to move at such speed and do all these acrobatics until you get to that boss and you're like, oh shit, I can't move, I can't fly anywhere, and I'm dead. And I'm trying 6 times and I can't beat it. Anyway. It's awesome. It feels great to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Was like, holy shit. The tutorial showing the whip was like, well, this... honestly, finishing it was like, this is what I was hoping Star Fox Zero would feel like.
Yeah,
was
sure.
Like this. Feels so... I feel bad always comparing games like this to Star Fox, but I just... I'm clear. I love that game. I love SNES one, and we need a game like that. And the ones that have filled the space, filled that void, I'm always like, man, I wish... I was just complaining about I was making the point that it's hard to tell who's who, but that's not true with this game. You're right to point out like it was something else, because that's the problem with any of the other ones, is that a lot of the time they use a vaporwave color scheme, and they're doing themselves no favors by making it impossible to tell where your enemies are. And this one's like, no, you can see the enemies very clearly. You know where you need to shoot, and it feels good.
It
And the
helps that
music's sick
the
and
music's great. It
the
helps that this
presentation's
first
amazing.
level, you're flying above the clouds of whatever planet you're on. So
Yeah.
the whole level is basically just white, and you are like
Yeah.
zooming over these clouds. And
Oh my
so
God.
to your point,
Yeah.
every enemy, whether they're red or black or yellow, it's like just shoot anything that's not white is basically
Yeah.
how the first level works.
Yeah.
Maybe other, like to clarify, I'm hoping in the full game there will be buildings and structures and obstacles to fly
Yes.
through, because that is
Yes.
also the fun of a Star Fox game.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's hope that this and also Whisker Squadron, which I've touched a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's hope that one day Nintendo or others, other AAA, whatever, will take lessons from the goodness of these indies and make the big one. You know, maybe we'll get it.
I agree. I'm just trying to grab Whisker Squadron because you mentioned it before. Whisker Squad.
Have you played it? I thought you did. I thought you did play Whisker Squadron.
I played. What was the one I played? Astro Dogs. Is that right?
Ooh, I don't know that one.
Didn't you recommend? I thought you recommended it.
Not that one. I recommended Whisker Squadron. Astro Dogs.
Astro Dogs. Yeah, that one was very hard on the eyes.
Have I seen Astro
Whisker
Dogs?
Squadron?
No, I've never seen Astro Dogs.
Okay,
but it's okay, all right.
But I did. I'll also say that I liked the length of the level with the boss fight. Once I figured out,
agreed.
You're right that boss required a little bit of get a little bit in a little bit of damage on the thruster, then sort of peel away a little bit, then get a little bit more. And I can get into that when you figured out that is, as far as I can tell, what you're supposed to do. I think we're both, unless we're both missing. No, you're supposed to do this with the thruster.
That's what I'm wondering. Am I missing? I've said this to Colette often. It's like the worst feeling in a video game is
yes.
Am I not understanding that? Like, I am okay with being bad. I'm okay with needing to get more skill. But if I've tried it 6 times and I'm like, I'm not improving, I must be missing something. And the same goes with environmental puzzles, or this door is locked and there must be a key and I do not know where it is and I'm just wandering around now. And that is the worst feeling in video games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Astro Dogs looks pretty fun as well. Oh
There's
my God,
some fun
some
stuff
of those
in it.
levels
I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm
so
saying
chaotic visually.
the only thing about it is just that color scheme is it's hard on the eyes, and then you're trying to shoot similarly hot pastel colored enemies. That's just oof.
Just looking at screenshots, it's not even just necessarily the color scheme. It's that every level has so many things that I can't even identify what the enemies are.
Yeah, no problem in Rogueflight. You're going to be able to see at least a demo. I agree with you. It would be nice to see some more environmental stuff. I hope that's not what they show off.
More spaceships, please. Come on.
Also, fast-moving Landmaster would be sweet.
Yeah. But you see, that's where I'm actually wondering about this game, which is the environment is moving. It's a trick. So you are, you're static. You're not actually moving through an environment. It's just that the clouds are going really fast.
Yeah,
if you were actually moving that fast in a physical 3D environment where you had to avoid obstacles, there's no way you could do it. So maybe this game is not that. Maybe this game just feels fast, but it's actually not fast.
Right.
And that's fun. It is very fun to play.
On that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm down. It felt great. I also love the very limited world building that they did. They were showing off with we found this. The robots took over, and we found this one ship.
Yes.
And this is the one ship that the robots can't control.
I like it.
Also, if you destroy this ship, that's it. We have no other options.
Yes, to save the world. And
this is the only one left.
And at first it's it's a fucking ship. It pumes lasers. Okay, whatever. Yeah. But hey man, this ship can spin around and whip people with its butt flares. It's like, oh yeah, that
Not only
is cool.
this the only one, this ship kicks some dicks in.
Yep. I'm sold. Rogue Flight.
And apparently it has, from the trailers, you can augment the ship in some way.
Yeah, and you can customize your ship. You can choose its colors, and you can choose your call sign. You can change speaking of colors, you can change the color of the ship's UI. So if you want your targeting reticule to be green or purple, you can change it. Yeah. And it has first and third person view. So it's very fun to see your ship whipping around. Yeah. But you can bop in and out from cockpit view to third person. Final question about Rogue Flight. Mm-hmm. Invert the Y-axis or no?
Oh, I don't care.
Really?
I really don't, because you just tell me which one to do and I'll get used to it.
Yeah. That's great. There's no right or wrong answer.
That might be some Souls training where the controls, when you start at Souls game, you go like, this does not feel natural. And then the more you play, you're like, oh, never mind. It works perfectly fine.
Totally.
If I know which way we're going, we're going. Because Star Fox is invert, I think. And
I assume you can change it. I feel like you could even change it in the original SNES version. If there were multiple control schemes in the SNES version. My only thought on that is that I play just a stupid amount of spaceship games, and so
right.
When you're like, I just played 800 hours of No Man's Sky, and then you hop into another ship game, and you're like, what the fuck? How do I go? And so I have to change it to my preference every time.
Yeah. That's also very Souls-like, because all the Souls games have very slight differences, and it is maddening when you go from Elden Ring over to Bloodborne, and you're like, didn't mean to fucking heal. God damn it.
Exactly. All right, what else is on your list here? Or should we alternate? That was a shared one. We both played this.
That was shared, yeah. What did I... Well, the other one I played was mentioned... was Heartworm, which was mentioned by who mentioned it? It was, I'm going to scroll through, Cheshire.
Oh, Cheshire 48. Yes. This is like a PS1 looking thing here.
PS1 looking motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's a lovely survival horror game. And what can I say about it? It's PS1 styled, which I love. I love seeing more PS1 style, because I think the PS1 look,
it's hot,
is probably the best a video game ever looks, is in the PS1 style. I love dithering. That's not sarcasm, by the way. I want to be very clear. We're both laughing, but I genuinely mean that. I think Silent Hill 1 is the best looking video game ever made.
Merch idea. T-shirts. I love dithering. Right? $24.99. Get them in the store.
Yeah. And you can, by the way, you can turn it off in this game, and you better fucking not. You keep the dither.
Everyone on the internet's like, turn off the motion blur, turn off the CRT, all that crap. I'm like, I love that. I love all that.
You love motion blur?
I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. It makes it look cinematic. It makes it look more fluid to me.
Huh. Well, okay.
This interview's over.
Yeah, we're closing off. I'm putting the bag back on.
Sky just left. He just walked out of the room.
I put the bag on and I walked out the door. I'm walking into doors now. Yeah, this game's great.
It looks good. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's got there's another game that came out a long time ago. I mean, most survival horror, I won't say most, that's not true, but there is a nice trend with survival horror where games want to adopt this sort of look, and for good reason. I think it really lends itself well to a spooky atmosphere, is when you see textures sort of wiggling around, and you have very odd lighting manipulation. This one has a weird combat system. You use a camera. to fight specters, but it doesn't have great feedback, I'll say. This is sort of a negative, even though I really liked what it was doing. But that part I couldn't figure out. There's like an actual achievement for beating it, and I was surprised once I didn't look at any achievements for this demo. I didn't realize that you could do achievements on a demo, but
that's interesting.
Turns out you can.
Cool.
And one of them was you beat your first enemy, and I was like, you can beat those things? I didn't think you could beat the enemies.
Okay. You thought it was more about avoidance rather than combat.
Yeah, I thought it was like they were forcing you to figure out the juking, but no, you can actually beat the enemies in the game, it turns out. So I don't know how.
The gist is that you point the camera and you take a picture or use the flash, and that incapacitates or kills enemies somehow?
Yeah, ostensibly it kills them, it beats them, but
there's no
gun.
Couldn't
figure that out.
There's no weapon. It's just the camera.
Yeah, no. But yeah, there's a puzzle, it's a puzzle, like go figure out where the key is for this, go figure out where there's like an otherworld component. It feels very Silent Hill in that it feels more Silent Hill than it does Resident Evil, in that it seemed like, despite the talk about being able to kill an enemy, that it's more focused on solving unsettling puzzles and going into the other world. This is another game with an otherworld a reverse version of the world you're in now.
Cool. Yes, it looks very much like an upside down situation, a Stranger Things sort of thing.
There's one boss fight in this demo, which was I can't believe that I actually beat it, because it didn't. The combat is really the only thing that I'm like, feels like it's leaning into not making you do combat, but then it wants you to do combat.
Okay.
But that again could be just I have a dumb head and I just need to wrap my head around it. Like Silent Hill 1 combat doesn't feel great, but I would say at least you feel like you're doing damage in Silent Hill.
Yeah, okay.
This one you're like, this has the problem of like, am I doing this right? I feel like I'm not doing this right.
That's exactly. Well, but I like the idea of it if it is giving you a choice where, some games are like, kill this monster. That's how you progress. Yeah. And if this is saying you could kill it, or you could sneak around, or you could walk here, go here, that is a nice little bit of agency that makes a game good.
Yep. I love that too. That's the only thing is that I'm like, when it starts to say like, oh no, you do need to do combat in certain areas, and it does have a boss fight. And I was like, so can you beat it without doing this? I don't know what you're trying to angle here, but I guess it's both. You can do both, which is great. I mean, that's classic survival horror. So
very cool. This looks great. Oh, I'm seeing a suggestion on Steam that you certainly reminded me of, My Friendly Neighborhood.
Oh yes.
Which I guess is out. Oh my god, that has a demo too.
Yeah, that's the other part
I might have to look at this.
Yeah, that's the other part of Heartworm, is that it's from Dread XP, published by Dread XP.
Oh, same publisher.
It's the same publisher, and they're, if you're not following Dread XP, they're heroes in the indie horror game. You
own this game already.
I love My Friendly Neighborhood.
This is like, what if you went to Sesame Street, but all the puppets were fucked up and you had to shoot them in the face?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's great.
It just looks really good in motion.
Resident Evil style, I will say. It's sort of in the vein of Poppy's Playtime, but I liked My Friendly Neighborhood way more than Poppy's Playtime. Okay. I think Poppy's Playtime it's sort of whatever, where My Friendly Neighborhood is just a little more polished. Plus, I love the developers. Dread XP is this pair of brothers, the Zamansky brothers, and they, I would say, follow both Dread XP and the individual brothers.
I see them, on Steam.
David and John, I think.
John and Evan, I'm seeing on My Friendly Neighborhood. I don't know if there's more brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. They've published their own games individually. Dusk was from one of them.
And then
the other one did did a bunch of very weird little games. Rubber Ducky Has a Gun was one of them. And there was another game he came out with, which was like a narrative-focused puzzle mystery game with like that was based around, or it was focused around finding different endings for this character. What was it called? I never remember the name of the game. But the Zemansky folk are, I love following what they do. And one of the games that I also played was from them. Oh, really? But it is not what you would expect.
Oh, right. The only thing I'm going to add here is that I am not a survival horror person. I rarely seek these games out. There is just something about My Friendly Neighborhood, the look of it and the feel of it and the animation that I am very drawn to. So I have now added that to my wish list.
Okay, yeah, if you're not into survival horror, I don't think that you're barred from playing this game. No. I think My Friendly Neighborhood can cross many people who don't like survival horror. I think can find something. If you like first person shooters, it can be fun. If you like puzzles, it's a really good one. I do not like puzzles,
but first person shooters, I can.
Again, they're pretty basic, I would say. The puzzles.
Let's shoot. Hey man, let's shoot Muppets in the face. You had me at hello on that.
Yeah. That was what I did. I don't usually play demos, and I did play that one way back when.
Yeah, I remember.
And that is one where I played the demo and went, this game immediately, the moment it pops up for release, it's
top of the list.
And I did not regret it.
Do you want to segue directly into the next Zemansky game? Is that on your your list here?
Yeah. Can you guess which one it would be? Well, without looking,
you have your list here in our shared Discord chat, and I'm going to guess that it is Secret Agent Wizard Boy and the International Crime Syndicate.
It is.
Yes,
that's the one. Which is a.
Oh my god! It looks like Lego Hogwarts.
Yeah. I played a bunch this morning because I went, oh god, I only played like 2. And that was the shortest one. It took me like 10 minutes to play it. I died like 7 times in it. And it's a multiplayer. You can play it multiplayer. And I think that's the intention because it's a little bit Gary's Mod.
Yes.
With a focus of you take on the role of like a secret agent who's infiltrated what is ostensibly Hogwarts.
And the character looks like Harry Potter, but with sunglasses instead of spectacle glasses. And that alone makes all the difference.
Yeah, it is very... I was about to say stupid, but it's not stupid. Because that feels a bit... I think they would probably say that knowing their humor.
Sure.
Is that they'd be like, yeah, we're being a little stupid. But it is from both brothers, not through Dread XP. Okay. And so it seems like just a goof game that they put out.
These guys are fucking prolific. I've never even heard of them. And you're like, and they made these 20 games and they're all great. I'm like, what?
Yeah. And they're all different. Like, you might find like little threads between all of them. But you'll be like, wait a minute, what is this? Why are they doing this? Like, yeah. So I played about 10 minutes.
What's the hook of this? Like, it's multiplayer, but are you versing other players or are you co-oping? It says online PvP.
It seems like they're taking on, what I can tell their intention seems to be is that they seem to be taking like the PS2 Harry Potter games.
Yes.
And they're doing something more like a Human Fall Flat where you're like, you have to figure out how to get out of Hogwarts without being caught.
Okay.
Without being exposed as a spy from MI6.
It's such a good premise. Because if there was a fucking magic school in the real world, you better believe that governments would be like, what the fuck is going on? We need to infiltrate it. Yeah.
So I want to play with I'm hoping that I can boonswoggle some folks into playing it with me.
I'm interested.
See what we can do.
Because I'm looking at video of it, just to put a pin on the Gary's mod. Like, it's super environmental, so you seem to be casting spells, but also using various pieces of the environment, benches, chests, chairs, statues, to like pick them up and throw them at your enemies in real time, who may or may not be other players. When you played it, are you fighting like bots, NPCs, or are you fighting other players?
It was all NPCs. I went full single player. There were a few other games that I flagged that I was like, oh, that's all online co-op, so I can't do anything. Nobody wants to play with me at 7 a.m.
But so if you were to hop
play
into
the solo, and
if it was matchmaking, then maybe you could just play with random people as long as you don't need to talk to them.
Yeah. And I think there is, but it seems like a game where it's more fun to play like with people and be like, because there's a lot of like really clearly intentionally janky stuff happening in the game. Like I exploded myself up with my wand like 3 times by like thinking that I was opening a door, but then I just cast a spell and it reflected into my face. And then I died, and everything ragdolls in the the classic like dumb way.
Yes, love it.
But I was like laughing while playing during the 10 minutes. Like, this is so stupid.
Legit,
and I don't know what I'm doing.
Never seen this, and now I'm suddenly super intrigued. It looks harmless in terms of like if the kids were to watch us play, that would not be a problem. It's goofy and dumb. There's no violent blood or anything.
No, it's all very safe. It seems like, unless knowing them, they could throw something in there that you just go like, oh,
just like subversive.
They just said fuck or something.
Exactly. Which, I don't know. Your kids are a bit younger than ours, but like, I don't know. Ours are like, they've heard their share of fucks and say their share of fucks. So that's not a problem for our household necessarily.
Anyways, that was a segue into that one while we're mentioning the Zemanski folks.
I am going to download
go check
this.
Any of their catalog out. So there's many of it where I go like, oh, I appreciate what they're doing here, but this game is not for me. The Rubber Ducky with a gun is one of the weirdest games you'll play.
So the creepy Sesame Street shooting Muppets is not going to be on the television when the kids are around. That's for sure. That will not.
That one's harmless, I'll say.
Is it really?
You'll be surprised to find that it is harmless.
All right.
It will. There may be jump. You will. The only thing that may happen is jump scares,
which they will not enjoy. But yes.
Yeah.
I love this. All right. Just again, Secret Agent Wizard Boy and the International Crime Syndicate. The greatest title I've ever read.
It's such a good title too. I had to like scroll the name while I was like trying to type it in my little window. Like, oh my God, I can't even fit the full title in my.
This will be installed shortly after this podcast is concluded.
Yeah.
I have to share the game that has shot to the very, very tip top of my my release calendar here. It is called Empire of the Ants, not to be confused with Empires of the Undergrowth, which is another ant game that I also own and think is excellent. But these are two significantly different ant games. And I will preface this by saying I love ants. I love all ants, and I love all ant video games. When you read about ants or you watch documentaries about ants, they are just the most amazing hive mind wonders of nature. The way they aggregate and communicate and work as a giant organism basically is it's astounding, and it truly is mind-blowing to think about what they're capable of. And so whenever, I don't know if you remember this, but going all the way back to Sim Ant. Do you remember Sim Ant for the PC and maybe later for NES? I don't recall.
I remember it. I never played Sim Ant.
SimCity was the hottest shit, and then Maxis made Sim Earth and Sim Ant and Sim, what the fuck ever, all the Sim games. But Sim Ant in particular was like you are an ant and you need to leave chemical trails to the food source, and then you have to tell your ants to come back, but oh shit, here's a spider and we got to gang up on the spider. It was essentially like an RTS, but with ants, and I freaking loved Sim Ant so much. Yeah. And ever since then, I've been on a quest to find amazing ant games. And so Empires of the Undergrowth is a top-down, I guess you would call it an RTS, has excellent controller support. But this game, Empire of the Ants, which is releasing soon, November 7th, it is a real-time strategy game, but you are down on the ground from the perspective of a single ant. So it's not first person, but it is third-person ant view. But the environments in this game are spectacular. It is Unreal Engine 5, whatever. And I have never played an insect game that captures the feeling of crawling around and under and on the sides of environments and objects as if you were truly an ant. It has spectacular controller support. So you might say an RTS with controller, like how does that work? And the answer is you are an ant and you move the ant in third person, like with your left stick. But what you do is you're commanding legions of warrior ants and worker ants and what do they call them? It's not archers, but it's like gunner ants, which shoot poison, I suppose, which are real. Those are real creatures. And didn't know that. Okay, right? I don't know that they're native to where we live in North America, but anyway, you are creeping, crawling around, and then you see an enemy or you see a nest in the distance. And then you hold left trigger, like you're aiming down sights of a gun. And then you select with your shoulder buttons, like, all right, I want these two warriors and these gunners to march toward this point. And you say, boop, and you put a pin on the location in the world where you want your troops to attack. And they start to move. And it is so freaking cool because you are an ant, you're creeping, crawling, you can walk sideways up and down structures, but as you're commanding these troops, it's like these armies of ants like move across the landscape, and and you can like get low to the ground, and they will like swarm around you, so you feel like you're marching into, Mordor or whatever with your armies and it's just so cool. And then they march in, and you are strategically positioning your spitter ants to be up on a little rock so they can spit down onto the nest you're attacking, and you're bringing your warriors in from two sides. And then it's like, boom, and the animation is so good. You can get down on the ground and you see the warriors like ripping the termite enemies to shreds, and they're like throwing them across the battlefield. And then you conquer the nest, and what happens is then you claim the territory. So you conquer a nest of opposing ants or termites or whatever, and then now you control the nest. So now you walk, you as an individual ant, you walk on top of the nest. And instead of like a menu popping up where you're like selecting what you want to do, it's almost like a diegetic menu where you look top down, and and as you walk around the nest, you're like, all right, I want the workers here to build a wall of twigs to surround the nest so it has more defense. And I want this nest to command an additional legion of warrior ants. So basically it becomes this sort of push-pull of like every nest you conquer can support a certain amount of stuff. So it's like this nest is going to slowly produce food, and it's going to control one legion of warriors. And then I conquer another nest, and this nest is going to slowly produce wood, and it's going to have like a chemical lab where I can improve my, attack, whatever. And it's going to control a legion of spitter ants or whatever. And so you're starting to like look at the entire battlefield of like, this space does this space does this. Oh man, I really need more X, but I don't have the infrastructure to support that. So I need to start looking out into the world to discover another place to conquer. And you have to explore. Like, the map does not show you where anything is. You must explore to see. And then interestingly, like, you explore and you're like, oh, there's a termite nest. But if you're not ready to conquer it, you kind of pull back and do other stuff, and then it disappears from your map. So there is like a fog of war where you have to like, you have to know what's out there in order to plan to attack it. And because ants don't have fucking, you know, radar or drones like a real war, like a human war, you physically have to go and explore and do. And there's like logs and swamps and crevices, and you are a freaking ant and you're crawling in. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's my ultimate ant game.
It sounds
I can't
like
wait to play it. I love it. I love it.
Especially when you're an ant guy.
Yeah.
That sounds like exactly what you want.
I'm so excited for this game.
And then you'll find out later, you'll find out in the full release that you will be able to form the shape of a human being and commit to full-scale war with nuclear arms. That
would be the ultimate evolution
ants
of
ants.
Ants will inherit the earth. Look, it's doing its very best to sort of like scientifically represent what ants do and look like. I think it is doing a good job representing what really goes on in ant combat. However, even in just the demo, it's like, and you can level up your warrior ants and you can get this. And now you can command a platoon of beetles. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Oh, what? Whoa.
Beetles and ants don't work together. Like, what? That is some fan fiction right there, but it is awesome. It's so fucking cool because your ants are these little guys and they're all swarming. But if you are able to generate this, I forget what they call it, like an apex predator or a superior predator or something, you then get these like tanks, which are these giant beetles that go and they fucking rip your enemies to shreds because they are massive tank beetles compared to the tiny ants and termites that you're fighting. Again, it's silly. It's fun. It is not canonical, but it's fucking rules, man.
It's not canonical to the lore of real world ants.
But if you're gonna tell me later that I get to command armies of scorpions and beetles and spiders, and we're gonna go nuclear here, bring it on. Let's do.
Wait,
this.
That is what happens in
I
this
have
game?
no idea. I have no idea. I do not know. I'm just. In the demo, I'm like, what? Where do these beetles come from? They don't come from
you can't
your
command
ant.
Beetles though.
Yes, you can. You can.
Oh my god.
Yes. Like they become part of the squad, and I'm just like, cool. This is not real, but I love it.
Yeah, not real, but I'm in.
Empire of the Ants. Good. Go get it. Try the demo. Even if you're not an ant person, but if you're interested in sort of like, I don't know, like RTS strategy, real time, but like third person. I've never played anything like this game. It's wholly unique. It's excellent.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm not an RTS guy. The closest I get is Pikmin.
Thank you for saying that. This is fucking brutal Pikmin. Savage, cutthroat, kill your neighbors. Pikmin. Dark Pikmin. This is Dark Pikmin.
Dark Pikmin. Yeah. I'm on the opposite side where I'm like, I respect you as a creature. Please stay away from me.
Stay out of my house.
Don't want to understand you. I just want my space, please. So this sounds like a horror game to me, to be honest. But
yeah, well, look, I wonder. It's very funny. Thank you for saying Pikmin because that was the analogy I meant to bring, and it very much.
Oh, really?
Pikmin.
Oh, yeah.
The goal of Sim Ant was to progress through the backyard and infiltrate the house of the humans on which you're in. That was the goal of Sim Ant.
Well, I do play them as to understand things, so maybe I should play Sim Ant. and then I might come to enjoy them.
Check out
I get your plight now. You've come to demolish me.
But this game, I wonder if they will include sort of human environments, because so far in the demo, there was like a bottle that was like a piece of trash. So clearly we are in the human world. And also I'm seeing in the screenshots that there's a soccer ball.
Got it.
If you've played or looked at Grounded, that's also a fun, like, I'm in the grass and everything's nature, but clearly we are humans and there's giant human things that you have to interact with. So
it's the easiest way to establish a small environment is go, here's a matchbox, here's a Coca-Cola.
Right. But if they had made this game and they had also just made a choice to say, this takes place 5 million years ago, where ants were still around and they were murdering other ants just as they do today, and humans did not exist yet, I'd be like, fuck yeah. It's just ant world. We don't need to know about other creatures. It's just ants killing ants.
It's just ant world.
Give it to me. Anyway, what's next on your list? Let's do. You do one more. I'll do one more, and we'll wrap it up here.
Which one to pick? There's two that I would pick to mention.
You too. Do it.
I'll do. The two are Beastieball and Spirit of the Samurai.
Okay.
Are the ones that I would want to mention, because both really, I was like, this is great. This is just great. The other two that I was like, yeah, this works. Were Rift of the Necrodancer. I was like, yep, that's exactly what I expected from it. And Wings of Endless was like, yep, exactly. They're just straight down the barrel. Here we go. But Spirit of the Samurai, I'll just say, has an amazing presentation because it features stop motion animation in its actions, and it's just one of the most standout looks. I love the new trend with like claymation or stop motion or like these games that are coming out. There's another one called Scarlet Deer Inn. Have you heard of that?
No.
Where it is a Metroid. I think it's a Metroidvania. I've not played the demo for it, so I don't know. But I know that the developers based its aesthetic on, on embroidery. So all of the sprites or all the artwork is actually hand embroidered, animated art in that one, in Scarlet Deer Inn. So the character, every frame is a still shot of an actually embroidered.
That's stunning.
Piece. And, Moon Hood is coming out with that claymation. There's another game that came out
the
recently.
Creators of Lost in Random have their claymation game coming, which just is also very high on my list of things to watch. I'm now looking at footage of the Samurai game, and truly, it's like, what if your action figures came to life?
Yes,
and started fighting, and it's stunning.
Yeah, and the gameplay is intentional combat. It's 2D intentional combat. If you played like Tales of Iron or Salt and Sanctuary or something like, or it seems like sort of like a Sifu as well, where basically a Souls combat where it's like you are committing to your actions and you need to be very careful with how you're approaching your enemies. So on top of exploring and almost like almost Castlevania specifically styled environment, not in terms of period. The period is feudal Japan, but the way that you move through the map is somewhat like Castlevania, where when you interact with a step, you need to actually press up to go up the steps.
Oh, really?
Or you can go past the steps by just walking forward.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you have to fight enemies up and down steps and on different platforms. And there's no jump. What am I talking about? I don't think there's a jump in the game.
Very interesting. Okay.
Now that I think about it. So it's not platforming focused. It's specifically foot on the ground intentional combat. So that one was really great. And then Beastieball, just moving forward,
Sure.
is a monster capturing game. It's a monster capturing volleyball game.
From the creators of Chicory, which I have not played, but has
it's
eternally been on my wish list. And
that makes sense because the music was composed by Lena Raine.
Okay.
Who is the composer for Chicory, but also I think more is known more for having composed the soundtrack for Celeste.
Very nice.
I heard the music and went, "Whoa, this music is sweet!" And then they know what they have too because they immediately go composed by Lena Raine. Come on, we know. But it is monster capturing, but your focus is on playing volleyball matches. And so it is a twofold combat system, and that you're trying to win a volleyball match by using, as far as the demo goes, you use two different monsters, and it is sort of a strategy Pokemon fight where with volleyball in that you are trying to score points in the matches by having your monsters perform combat moves the same way that you would in a Pokemon game, but they're all focused on like, you will hit the ball like this, it will go straight down the path, or you choose this move and it will go sideways down the path because the map is laid out like a volleyball court. Mm-hmm. And you are on one side, and both sides have 4 spaces, 2 in the back and 2 in the front.
Right.
Your monsters will occupy 1 space each.
Yes.
And you basically have to make sure that you are able to receive the ball so that the opponent doesn't score a point, but you're also able to knock out your opponents with the moves that you're making to knock the ball towards them. So you are taking damage every time you receive the ball, but you also don't want them to score the point and win the match.
Yes,
it sounds so complicated when I explain it.
But looking at it too, it is like this tactical, like positional. Yes. Like you have to occupy the space, the quadrants to anticipate your enemy's things, but also you're using these abilities, and so it's spatial and I don't know, ability based. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then you have type match. They didn't get into that in the demo. Is like, here you have to think about how you're matching your types against each other. Yeah. It was all like, here's the basic thing that you have to wrap your brain around is just, you need to receive the ball. You're going to take damage, but you definitely want to receive it. Otherwise, you're going to lose the match.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just blown away. The presentation is amazing. It reminds
beautiful.
Me of another game that I loved, which is Dodgeball Academia.
Sure.
Which was a dodgeball RPG released like 2 years ago, or 3 or something like that. And
yeah, you told me about it. You've talked about it in the show. Very, very interested and intrigued.
So as soon as I played this and was like, yeah, this one feels like that. I was like, all right, we're already in. Composed by Lena Raine. Music was like really great. I was listening to the soundtrack while I was waiting for us to start up.
Nice.
And then the combat, though, like trying to explain it feels very complex. I'm like, first match in, I'm like, oh, I get it. I totally get what's going on here. And then they start to like add a few more pieces, and you're like, okay, so this has way more depth to the combat. Mm-hmm. Or I don't even know if I can call it combat. It's technically combat, but it's also like you're in a match.
Matches,
You're in a sports match. So it's like, it feels like they shouldn't go together. And then playing it was like, this is great.
Yeah.
I would love to play this.
So like Dodge the elevator pitches, Dodgeball Academia meets Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah. With a focus on Pokemon style, you take a turn, then they take a turn, then you take a turn. Technically, you're taking turns together is the cool part. You have to like anticipate where they're going to shoot the ball and how they're going to shoot the ball. And so you're always planning like, how am I going to make sure to receive the ball and then do as much damage as I can on the next one? Or be able to just score the point. Because you're not actually like Dodgeball Academia was more like, oh, I'm moving around and trying to receive balls and like action oriented, whereas this is like turn based. You are taking turns strategically.
Yeah.
So
I'm noticing on the Steam page too, may not be in the demo, but online PvP, which now has me even more intrigued of doing these tactical battles, sort of real-time turn-based with a human opponent, pitting your creatures against their creatures sounds great. Yeah.
And when you play, I forgot about that part because the cool part of that is that if you play the demo, you can pick your save up when the game is released.
Nice.
So whatever you've done in this, it's very, very short, but whatever you've done, you can just like, it's almost like, what's the point? I barely played any of this. It feels like I played nothing.
Yeah.
But I do always like when they're like, no, you can pick up the game once you've, like, from where you left off.
They're saying 2024 release date. So given that there's only 2-ish months of 2024 left, hopefully this comes out soon and you can carry it forward pretty quickly.
So there you go. Those are the two. Spirit of the Samurai, Beastieball were both worth
Spirit of Samurai
more than the time I spent.
For sure. I'm adding it to the wish list just because I want to keep an eye on it. And I don't know that it's for me, but it just is so unique and stunning that I want to see what people are doing with it when it comes out.
Oh, yeah, same. I'm like, I can see myself dropping off once I get too frustrated with it.
Right.
But I can also see, just based upon the movement and this, like the art style, that people are going to do like really crazy things with this game, I think.
Did you complete that demo and feel like, I did. I made progress? Okay, so it wasn't like you got stuck or anything.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that the demo, you play as one character. You play as this samurai character. But they mention it right out of the gate and in the trailers is that you will play as 3 completely different characters in the game. You'll play as a little cat, and then you'll play as a Kodama, a teeny little Kodama. And it seems like the Kodama will have like his own their own type of combat going on. They're a cute little Kodama, and they have a sword and a ninja outfit on, and it's very so you only get to play as one of the main characters in this game.
Jeez, it looks it looks so great. I can't believe
by far one of the more stunning games of the few that I played.
Wishlisted for sure. I mean, any game with a Kodama is top tier.
Yeah, cheers. What's the Kodama? As soon as the Kodamas popped up in this game, I was like, yay, we've got some more of these guys.
All right, it's one more.
Neo and this. What's
Neo?
Neo is the Souls-like.
There's Neo. That has Kodamas in it?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
One more to share that I think people may be aware of already. The developers of Dead Cells, everyone's favorite.
This was the one.
Action roguelike, et cetera. The developers Motion Twin, they have been sharing, teasing, promoting their next game, which is called Windblown. And it honestly was not like, I love Dead Cells, but I didn't get like obsessed with Dead Cells. I kind of got to a point where I'm like, all right, like I don't know that I'm ever going to get great at this game. And I've seen all the things I have done with it and respect it and put a good amount of hours in. But so when they shared that this was the new game, I was like, all right, I'm sure this is going to be excellent as well. But it wasn't like super high up on my list. But for whatever reason, sort of taking a break from Baldur's Gate, not a break, but just sort of like, hey, I want to play an action game, in between this tactical strategy stuff. And I noticed that the demo was available. It might have even been pre-Next Fest. And I was like, oh, cool. Like Windblown. Like I should check it out. Downloaded it. Took it for a spin a couple days ago. The kids were with me and my son was like, what's this? And I'm like, oh, this is a cool game. It is very much Dead Cells and Hades had a sexy little baby, where it is this isometric top-down-ish combat, but very much in the Dead Cells mold of like you are acquiring different weapons as you go through the runs, and those are somewhat random, but you unlock them by gaining currency and progressing. So it's like you unlock a memory of a bow, and then it's like, cool, the bow. And then on your next run, you spend currency to like unlock it. And then there is a chance for the bow to happen, to appear in subsequent runs. And then what starts to happen is you're like, oh, okay. So if I do this big sword plus the bow, then I have this sort of build, or I'm doing a kunai plus this quick sword. And so I've got a ranged attack plus this quick thing. And I'm like, all right, it's Hades. That's, fine. It's great. Where this starts to shine is a couple places. One is traversal, which they recommend playing with a controller. I only play with controller. So it's a button on an Xbox controller where you're just dashing. You're dashing very, very quickly through the environment. And the environment is like floating islands and floating platforms. So you're not like jumping you're not platforming where, oopsie, I missed the platform and I fell. You're just going A, and you're going zoop, 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 and you're zipping with immense speed through the environment, which obviously feels fun and great. The environment is beautiful. So it's these like red grass and floating islands and mystical whatever, but it's also a very mechanical world, clockwork enemies and such like that. It's not steampunk, but I don't know, steampunk mixed with fantastical whatever. And then there's the other piece of the combat that really struck me yesterday and today as I was playing more of it, is that every weapon has very unique feel and very unique abilities. So if you hold the button, you get two combat buttons. So A is dash, X is weapon 1, whatever you put on that slot, and Y is weapon 2, whatever you put on that slot. So it's not like, oh, this is my heavy attack, this is my light attack. It's like, it's whatever you want it to be. Then when you hold the button to do a ultimate attack or a heavy attack, it's unique to every weapon. So sometimes you like jump up in the air and do this big flip and land on an enemy. Sometimes you throw 3 kunai instead of 1 individually. But then there's this other cool mechanic where if you unlock a thing, I don't know what they call it, you then get this mechanic where if you attack multiple times with weapon 1, you get a flash of a symbol that's like attack, 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 flash. And then if you activate the second weapon after the little symbol flashes, you do like a very special, unique attack with the second weapon. Conversely, if you attack, attack, attack with the second weapon and you get the flash and you switch to the first weapon, you then do a unique attack. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, combat is very dynamic and very nuanced, of like you can do ultimates with each individual weapon, but if you mix and match your weapons in precise patterns, you get this like and then combine that with like you are dashing and zipping all over the place constantly, it starts to become this very, very flow state tactical dynamic combat system that takes some time to learn and get used to. And also every time you run, you're kind of developing a different build. So unlike Hades, where you're like, I'm going to do the shield and I'm going to get good at the shield. In this, when you modify that for a Dead Cells world, it's like, I don't really know what I'm going to get when I go for the run. So, But as I pick up weapons, I'm like, oh, wait, this does this. Let me put this here. Let me put this here. And then, and then this has a really cool, I can do a ranged attack with this, but as I charge it up, then it gets the secondary thing. There's a bow that, again, speaking to how very, very different every weapon feels, there's a bow that you get eventually, and the bow has this, when you shoot it, there's a circle that appears around you, and there's it's like a ring. I'm trying to, I can't quite think of an analogy, but it's one of those little, not a mini game, but it's a mini sort of timing puzzle.
You have to hit the ring.
You hit the ring at the exact moment.
At the right time.
It's very
like a fishing game. Fishing games use something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very generous. So you don't have to get it at the exact second. You sort of get it like when the big ring closes in, and when the main ring turns gold, anytime after that you can shoot. And so basically it's like you shoot very quickly and it's low damage, but if you shoot when the ring turns gold, you get a slower but heavier attack. So you're like,
nice.
And I didn't realize that at first. I'm like, why isn't the ability triggering? I don't know how to do this. And then you start to realize, and you're like, wow, okay, so suddenly the mechanics of this run are radically different. And so what started out as like, yeah, it's Hades. Okay, fine. It's fun Hades. Great. Now it's starting to be like, oh, the combinations are very dynamic and very, very open. Yeah. And then the last thing that I realized yesterday or today was like, you do not take damage from touching enemies. And that is really excellent in this game, because you are dashing and running constantly, and if you had to constantly be like, oh, I crashed into this guy, blah, 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 it would feel very frustrating. But the magic of this, the part that ties it together and clinches it into like a really excellent game that is now like, I'm very eager to play more of it, is that you can like run right into the enemy, and that is actually quite strategic, because everything is about, speaking of Soulsborne, et cetera, everything is about anticipating the attack of an enemy. And and it's beautifully designed, because you don't have to like face an enemy and like, okay, wait, what is the tell? What's the wind up? There's something about the design where while all enemies have different attacks and they all look different and behave differently, they all have this very good wind up where it's like, and shoot and hit. And you can very clearly see what they're all doing. So you can zip up to a new platform and you're like, I've never seen this guy before. Boom, 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 avoid. I'm under his feet, zip around, crash, double combo, boom, and it's done. And every single combat encounter is like, bam, 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 onto the next one. Bam, 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 onto the next one. And you're not worried about falling off the edge. You're not worried about touching enemies. You are just killing and then zipping to the next place. And that all these factors combine, elevate it from, it's Hades, elevate it to like, oh, it's Hades plus Dead Cell. It's Hades, but feels so good like Dead Cells felt so good.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm in. And I was playing it the other night and my son was watching, and I was like fully slotting into the flow state of it. And he and he's been playing it, and he's like, I really want to play this. And he was like having fun, but then getting frustrated. And he turns to me as I'm playing it. He's like, the skill. And I was like, wow, dude. And I'm not good at the game, but it's just, it allows you to feel cool and like a badass, even if you're not that good at it. And that is a great video game right there. So Windblown.
That's how Rogue Flight felt, was like, I feel sick. I feel like the sickest pilot on whatever this world is.
That's it. That's what
sweet.
That's what makes an action video game great. And Rogue Flight has it. Windblown has it.
Yeah. I was so worried you were gonna, but the tone was like, oh no, is he about to say Windblown was sort of forgettable?
I expected it to be, hey, this is one of those, and it feels really nice because it's very well designed. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised.
That's great.
It truly is excellent.
Dead Cells is a game where it does just feel good to play the game.
It feels good, but it can be punishing. Dead Cells can sometimes be punishing. And I think
absolutely.
So far, I don't feel punished by this game. I feel like a badass who eventually will die. And then I'm like, oh, cool. I guess I'll be more careful next time. And you zip right into the next run, and you're in it right away, and you go and you start again, and it feels great. And it's charming. It's beautiful.
That's great.
It's beautifully
it looks
rendered.
Great. Love Dead Cells. Love Hades. So that definitely anything isometric. I always have there's something about perspective in these types of games that I'm like, it's got to be real good for me to click in. Like Hades is like, yeah, click in easy.
Totally.
So a motion twin version,
right?
That has its own thing going on. That's also always a thing with like, I played so many action platformer pixel art 2D games, and that is obviously going to be a category dominated by with way too many games, and many that are just like totally forgettable. And I'm always like, what's the catch with like what could be the unique thing that this one is doing?
Windblown delivers that uniqueness. I didn't feel it. I did not feel it at first, but I would say by the third or fourth run, it's one of those games where you're like, oh, you can do this, and you can mix and match that. Oh, and
it's roguelike, right?
It's roguelike, so you pull currency back from your run and then spend it on unlocking stuff.
Oh,
but again,
right, yeah, that's what you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, unlike Hades, you're not leveling up. You're not making things. You're not making yourself stronger. You are unlocking the potential for better combinations of things to appear later. If that makes any sense. If you play Dead Cells,
it does. Dead Cells is like that. So
yeah. One other little tidbit, some breaking news here. I'll say this: it runs beautifully. Like, it's so fluid. It doesn't drop frames. I'm running it at 60 frames on my PC, and it's excellent. I put it on the Steam Deck. It can't quite hit 60, but I'm capping it at 40, and it's really good. There's a funky, weird thing with the demo where when you dash, which is all the time, you keep running. Your character keeps moving faster than the walking animation, which is nice because you kind of pick up speed and you're dashing, but you're running. And there's something about the environment that gets a little out of sync. It's hard to explain. It's very subtle. But what I determined, long story short, is that the V-Sync is not, the in-game V-Sync is not quite hitting the mark when your character is running. So if you walk around, it's fluid and buttery smooth. As you dash, the environment starts to get a little choppy, which I am very sensitive to it, and I notice it, and it made me a little bummed because I'm like, this game feels amazing to play, but when I dash, it feels chunky. But I'm looking at the frame counter, and it's like, nope, it's 60. It's looking great. It's all good. It's all lined up.
Interesting.
And when I frame cap it on the Steam Deck, the issue does not happen because I'm using the OS's frame limiter. And it's like, all right, so something about the game, the VSync in the game is not quite fully done yet. And I went into the developer Discord, and there's a feedback forum. It's not a chat. It's one of those forum Discord posts. And they're like, hey, we want feedback. It's early. We're going to be in early access starting October 24th, which is a couple days from now. And I posted and I said, hey, this game looks great. Love playing it. Runs great. Weird issue with VSync. When I turn VSync off, it runs great, but it tears. And here's what happens on the Steam Deck. As of an hour ago, they replied, and the developer was like, yep, we saw that. Thank you so much. We have now fixed it in the early access version. Unknown if they're gonna. Whoever this is saying we will maybe fix it in the demo, but they have confirmed that they have fixed it in the early access version. So,
well, heck yeah.
I'm sure they were aware of it already. I don't think I was revealing anything.
You can take credit. Just take credit. It's okay.
I have single-handedly fixed Windblown, and you're welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to get the full version and now just buttery smooth my way up these beautiful platforms to kick some ass. So Windblown and Empire of the Ants are going to be occupying me in between Baldur's Gate, prison breaks, and murder fests.
Yep.
Have you returned to Baldur's Gate at all since our last?
No, I haven't.
Conniving?
I hit. We've probably mentioned that we're in a campaign together. We made an oopsie and had to obliterate a large part of the whatever it is, the grove.
Yes.
Oopsie.
Innocent civilians were slaughtered. Oops. They attacked us first, but we also...
They did. It's on them. You know what? We fixed it by killing many of them. But
we may or may not have let a murderous goblin go free, which then angered all the nice, peaceful people. And and then we had to murder them. So sorry to all the tieflings and their parents.
Even solo, I did not. I've not gone back to it. Chrono Trigger took... priority and until it started crashing. And now I'm angry at Chrono Trigger.
I mean, look, you have purchased a legal copy of this game on Steam, I presume. Just go get the ROM and put it on your phone and play it on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
I guess I'll go do that. What was I playing? I was playing before we did all this. Nobody Saves the World is what I've been playing. I think you might like this one, actually. You should look that up.
It sounds familiar. I think I've heard of it.
It's from Drinkbox Studios, the folks behind Guacamelee, but it is not Guacamelee. It is its own thing. Little bit of a roguelike, but I'm just going to say go check that game out because it's been very fun and interesting.
Is this on Switch? Because if this is like a co-op situation...
I'm fairly certain it's on Switch. It is co-op. I don't know how, but it's co-op.
Ooh, yes it is. When did this come out?
I think
it's not brand new.
2 years ago. Is that right?
Oh, well, it's on sale for $10 on Switch, half price.
There you go.
More than half price.
And if you haven't played Guacamelee, you should go play.
I know that's been on my back burner.
Either of them, 2 or 1, doesn't matter.
Okay.
They are in my what do you call it? Oh shit, the president heads. The heads of the presidents. What's the monument called? Oh my god.
Yes, the Mount Rushmore of
the Mount Rushmore
what would you say?
of Metroidvanias.
Metroidvania. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes. They're one of the 5. I have 5 presidents in my Mount Rushmore.
Very nice. Yeah.
Of Mount Metroidvania more.
Metroidvania
and Guacamelee
more.
Is on there.
I'm going to hope that Super Metroid is on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And obviously Hollow Knight, and now Guacamelee. So fill in the rest here for us.
It would be Super Metroid, and that is sharing its spot with Metroid Dread, which might make some people mad. But
fascinating. No, I don't. I can't.
I love
fight
Metroid Dread.
That. Dread is great. It's excellent.
Yep. So Metroid in general, but we know which 2: Guacamelee 1 and 2. Hollow Knight. What are my other? Blasphemous 1 and 2 both landed on there this year after I played Blasphemous 2.
So if I were Blasphemous curious, should I just get number 2? Does that refine and improve all the things that 1 did? Like, I'm not going to play both of them.
Oh, yeah. I think if you're like, there's some things about Blasphemous 1 that I don't, specifically... the way things move, some of the combat, if you're having trouble with that, Blasphemous 2, I think, is a little easier.
Okay.
In that things move a little more smoothly. The platforming is way easier in 2. Okay.
That's how you've sold me right there, then.
But they dial things up, too. So it's not like, the game is just easier. They're like, no, we gave you... we made these things a little easier, but the skill ceiling that we've put into the game is much higher.
Because when you feel like it's unfair, like you're dying unnecessarily, that is frustrating. But skill ceiling is different. So okay, that's great. You've told me everything I need to know. So then, what is the 5th president.
Ori, both Oris.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, I never got 2, but it's on the list.
And I have 5 there because I'm like, they all represent like their own thing that I'm like, that is its own flavor that does it just like the top shelf. And for me, all 5 of those are like, what do you want? You want this? Great. You go play this one. You want a brawler? You'll play Guacamelee. You want, something that has really great atmosphere and feels smooth. You go play Ori.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Nobody Saves the World, if I were to look at it without talking to you, I thought it was a brawler. But you're saying it's a Metroidvania?
No. Well, no, because I mean, this is why I love the term Metroidvania, where people get annoyed at it. I'm like, I love the term because you can literally put anything into a Metroidvania and it's just like a nice big buffet of whatever you want with a Metroidvania. Because you're like, yeah, technically, I guess, but it's more like a very light roguelike dungeon crawler is what it is.
Yeah.
But the twist being that you get to play as this like cavalcade of different characters that you slowly unlock throughout the game.
Yeah.
And they all have their own skill sets and things that they do. You start off as like this, basically just like a meat bag whose only attack, as far as I know, through the whole game, can only do this pitiful slap. But then you get this wand and you can turn into a rat to begin with. And then you like basically like just chew through things.
Yeah,
until
I like
you
the
can
metamorphosis
turn into something else.
that you can transform, and you're transforming mid-level, like at
anytime
will?
you want, you can transform. Anytime.
Honestly,
and that's its whole gimmick is that it's somewhat open world doesn't feel right because there are things locked off to you, but you have to like unlock them yourself by going around and basically getting the character that allows you to float over the water or like get through the poison.
Okay.
But so you can't do that until you level up enough.
Metroidvania. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Right. It does technically fit into a Metroidvania when you stretch the definition.
Yeah,
of this,
for sure.
You could definitely, I think we could call it like just a roguelike dungeon crawler.
Great.
But I don't know how to. You can refine it a little more
with gated progress or whatever.
Yeah.
My final question, because like this, I don't know that I would be like, I'm going to play this myself. It's my number one game. But when you expand it out to like, a fun fighting combat game co-op that I can play with my son, who will absolutely love it. My final question about it is, what is the frustration level? What is the sort of like, this is so hard and we keep dying over and over again? Because he will not tolerate that.
I think it comes with like the roguelikes part of it, the dungeony, like it feels like a gauntlet where there's just lots of enemies sometimes. And you're like, oh no, I got to get through all these enemies. How am I supposed to do that with my limited skill set? Honestly, it feels like any top down or isometrics, like a Hades. It feels like Hades too is like closer to it, where you have a limited skill set to use, and you have to figure out how to use that to beat the enemies and get through the level and get to the boss. So it can be punishing. It's also the open world part of it, where you sometimes just stumble into an area where you're very low leveled. You're too low leveled for the area. It has a leveling system, I should say. So. And
then you can grind and I like that too, of like, oh shit, we can't do this, but we can then just go over here and do another thing. That is all right.
And they very clearly telegraph that by, I mean, these developers are very funny with what, like when you play Guacamelee, you're aware they write humor very well. So they approach their games with a good amount of fun. So, they tell you right out of the gate, like, you should not be here. This is not, you go away.
Great.
And then you can do it anyways and try. But you're probably going to get killed. So I guess the frustration level is like medium. Like you're going to find adversity, but you're also,
that's fine.
Yeah. It's a very like casual, chill game, I would say. Like
and the DLC
in terms of dungeon crawlers go.
Sale. Yeah, $10 on Switch right now. Yes, on sale on Switch. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure it runs okay on Switch, and then we are in need of some family kicking ass time, I think, this weekend. So we will. I will investigate this for sure. This is great. Well, I've gotten what I needed out of this podcast. I've got a great game for me and my son to play. Thank you for filling in while Colette, unpacks her life.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to check out all this spectacular Bloodborne work that you're doing, what do they do? Where do they go on the old information superhighway?
You can find me on Twitter or on Instagram, or if you're leaving Twitter, you can find me on Blue Sky. Or you can type in my name into Google and I will come up. I'm lucky enough to come up when you type in my name.
What if I type in your name into like my bank website? Will you appear there?
Well, if you put your money in, then
okay.
Then yeah, put some money down and type my name in, and
sick.
And then maybe I get a little more money.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
If you need a papercraft diorama of your favorite video game scene, go pay Sky Burkson to make it for you.
No, that's the appropriate way for me to get money right now. Just pay me for paper.
Pay me for paper. Give me paper. Give me this green paper that we all agree is valuable in exchange for this other paper that we all agree is very, very cool to look at on my bookshelf. Thanks again for subbing in, and we will we'll talk at you next week. See you later, everybody.
Bye.